time out of your busy day.
All right.
You say got it. Thank y'all for taking time to join us for this meeting, for this presentation. I think we might hang on maybe just one more teeny tiny minute so people can get logged in, and then we can get started. So, oops. I should have just shared the PowerPoint so y'all don't see my many Outlook reminders pop up. All right. Okay.
Recording in progress.
There we go. All right, Denise, you ready?
I'm all ready. So I'll just start by saying thank you all very, very much for coming. And thank you so much to Natasha for offering to do this, telling us that she had, made this and had presented this in the past and was willing to dust it off for us. She's moved on from urology, but she's still helping us out in so many ways. And so we're super appreciative. But this talk will be, I think, for everyone, there'll be a little bit that's specific to urology, but a lot of it is just specific to those of us who manage GME. So I'll kick it over to you, Natasha. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. So, so this is going to be a co-presentation between me and Denise. Denise being the Acure president-elect. She's also been the Acure secretary. She's been the Acure, the chair of the professional development committee. She's done all the things, C-TAGME certified. So I know this is going to be great. And you're getting a resource that is from 2 experienced coordinators. That being said, I do have to give a disclosure. So we are also obviously giving, information that's based off of our experience. So I would say just whatever information that we give to you guys today in this presentation, it may be interpreted differently by you and your needs or your department or division needs. And so I would just, defer any questions, like if there's anything questionable in the presentation, by all means, feel free to bring it up to your leadership and just get clarification from them, because although a lot of this information is universal, sometimes it may be applied differently in your department or institution. So that's my disclosure. And also, I don't own any of the rights to the photos in here, so enjoy them anyways though. Okay, so that being said, just a quick overview of what we're gonna go over. This is a very, I don't want to say a basic overview, but it is just kind of like a trail of information that is it's not going to get into the weeds in anything. We're going to share with you guys just some fundamentals, like the timeline, some additional operations that a program coordinator does, and then just kind of go over the academic year and just kind of share some best practices. We'll also share some resources at the end, and we'll open it up to Q&A in case anybody has any questions. So if at any point, if you do have a question, I personally don't mind if you guys wanted to interrupt and ask that question. Otherwise, feel free to just jot it down and then bring it up at the end, okay? So again, this is a program coordinator overview that's for new program coordinators. And for those of you that are experienced, I hope that you guys can share some of your knowledge as well, okay? So just some fundamentals. So if you're a new program coordinator, you've never done GME before, GME is, when a student actually completes their medical education. So once they've completed their medical education, they then become an official physician, but then they've got to go on and do a specialty, right? They usually choose whatever specialty they want. In this case, most of the coordinators on here may be urology specialty. So they choose that and then transition into what's called graduate medical education. That then prepares them to practice in that specialty, get their board certification, and all the things. So this is just kind of a ladder. I actually took this snapshot from ACGME. So it just shows where students go, they get their college degree, they get into medical school, which is about 4 years, and then they get into their residency program, which the residency, the number of years, depending for urology, it is, Denise, remind me, I believe it's 4 years. Is that right?
5 years.
5
of
years. Thank you.
residency, because we now have our own kind of contained internship year.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So
Yeah.
yes. So yes.
So I was gonna
uh,
say, didn't we used to do, like, yeah, it was 1 year surgery, then 4 years urology, now it's all 5 years urology, right?
Yep. Now
Okay.
it's all 5 years. Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah. So some other specialties it may be shorter, it may be longer, but for urology it is 5 years. The first year being the internship year. Then they can choose to go on to fellowship programs, which is just like a specialty within a with a specialty within a specialty, which is called a subspecialty. And then from there, once they've graduated, then they get into the real world and, and continue their professional development, being board eligible, getting board certified, and then choosing whatever path they want. They may choose to go into academic, or they may choose to go into private practice. So that's just a general overview of that. ACGME. So if you don't know what ACGME is, that is basically the godfather of everything that we do, right? So they, on a national basis, govern everything that we do. They are the ones who provide the structure and basically put their stamp of approval on any program. The thing about ACGME and why people gravitate towards ACGME programs is because they know that if it's ACGME accredited, it's following the rules. It's a well-structured, well-infrastructured program. But they basically are the ones who just govern the program, keep it regulated, and ensure that it's a high-quality program. And if you want more information about ACGME besides this snippet, I did go ahead and put a link there and I did test it out because I know this was a recycled presentation. But it actually works. So if you wanted more information, by all means, feel free to go and click that link later on, which we will be sharing the slides to this presentation later. So each institution has like its own, what is the word? Like its own hierarchy, right? This right here is just like an organizational chart that I came up with a few years ago. But I went through it with Denise, and it's kind of still relevant to probably other institutions. Like your institution may be structured a little bit differently than UT Southwestern's, but at the end of the day, programs typically report to a GME office, which also reports to the ACGME, right? Because the GME office is also held to a standard, which is like the institutional requirements, right? But one of the things I love about this hierarchy here is it shows that program coordinators have a line that goes back into the community, right? So I know like we stay busy, we're doing a lot of things, but at the end of the day, we're supporting residents and fellows, and that eventually impacts the community. And that to me, that's a purpose that I hang on to. And anytime I'm, really, really busy, I just know that I'm giving back to patients through the work that I'm doing. So Denise, any thoughts on this? Sorry, this is a really busy organizational chart, so.
But I think it's great. I think it's probably applicable to most of us. Yep.
Yeah. So, so again, if you're new to being a program coordinator, there are a lot of acronyms, a lot of which I can promise you're probably not going to learn within your first year, or maybe you're a total rock star and you're going to learn them all in the first year. If you do, then please tell me how you did it. It took me a couple of years personally to kind of get used to everything. So I did try to kind of keep like a little glossary, but there is an actual ACGME glossary. So I tested this link down here. And so if you wanted to print out a full copy of the glossary, that's available to you. And I'm not going to go through all of these right here, but these are just kind of some basic ones that kind of come up pretty often, okay? And then just kind of some national acronyms here, like maybe your, I know that urology does not match through NRMP, but you may hear NRMP come up. Also like FRIDA, like most of you guys may know that like the GME track is due, I think this Friday, if you haven't already done it. Yeah, these are just kind of some basic things. And then one thing I did want to point out here was the C-TAGME. If you aren't familiar with C-TAGME, that's an opportunity for you to actually get board certified, because it is a certifying board. and you can basically get board certified in graduate medical education. I do think that you need to have at least 2 years under your belt before you can actually apply. I could be wrong about that, but pretty sure that's what it is. And the great thing is that these continued education sessions, these presentations actually count towards getting lectures and credit for TAGME, because you will have to fill out an application and all the things, which I'm not going to get into the weeds about that, because Acure is actually doing, I think, study groups at some point. So if you're interested in that, you're eligible, please keep an eye out for that, because more to come on that as well. All right, and just some like other little acronyms here, just like GMEC, FTE, APE, MedHub, all the things. For urology, it would be like the ABU, the AUA, SAU, and the Acure, of course. So any questions on that before I dig into the GME timeline overview? Yeah, I think we're all good. All right. So the ACGME kindly offers coordinator timelines. I've put a link in here. You guys are welcome to download that and all of that. I will say though that when downloading from ACGME, they're not specific to specialties. So it gives you kind of a basic outline, but it's not going to really target like maybe urology, or in my case, it would be pediatric neurology. Like, so I would just keep that in mind. It's still a great resource. If you're new to GME, you're trying to navigate, you know, of ACGME, by all means, print this resource, take a look at it, see if it's something that would help you, okay? And we will be providing some additional resources at the end of this as well. Okay, so this right here is the big cheese, as I like to say. So this is just a basic overview of the GME cycle, which of course starts in July, which we're in right now. Congratulations to everybody who survived exit, graduation, and all the things, and onboarding. I hope you're all preparing to take your vacation now. So once you could, like I said, I'm not going to go into all of this, but I do want to point out a couple of things. Of course, most of you guys by now already know that ACGME Web Ads is open. GME Track, I think it's the program survey that's due, but then I believe the resident survey is going to open soon, if I'm not mistaken. So anyways, other things to point out, you know, keep an eye on when ERIS is opening, prepping for your interview seasons, knowing like down here in December, like you get, you know, which I said, we're about to get into the weeds of this, but like knowing that December is going to be a busy month, January is going to be a busy month, and then you probably will get busy again between May, June, and July. So I probably should, it would have been, maybe I'll do that next time, Denise, where I'll actually highlight the circles that are your busiest months. But I would definitely say probably December, May, June, and July. So of course, it may be different for everybody. Everybody's different, right? So and then I did want to pivot to Denise to kind of point out these urology sections. The urology sections are actually in blue. So Denise, any comments or feedback?
Yeah, so it will be obviously different for, you know, everybody who's in a different specialty, but I would guess most of you who are in a different specialty will register your trainees for some sort of in-service or in-training exam. It'll be in a different timeline than ours, but it'll probably be in a similar kind of fashion. We in urology have our own match, which is a little bit odd, but it is what it is. And so our match is early, much earlier, well, not much earlier, but about a month and a half earlier than the NRMP match. So we have a very specific timeline that our Society of Academic Urology sets aside for us for when we can offer interviews to applicants, when they can accept or decline the interviews, and then when we actually interview. And then we have our rank order list due, just like any of you who are, you know, using the NRMP or the San Francisco match. Different for us though, is our match day. It's 8 a.m. on match day for everybody. So unlike NRMP, we don't have the week-long, you know, match and soap and all of that. So that's how urology differs from a lot of the other programs, most all other programs.
Yes. Yes. So, so your interview season may look a little bit differently than like, other specialties, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all accomplishing the same thing, right? So outside of staying within that timeline and just making sure you're meeting your monthly milestones, like making sure you're getting everything done that needs to be done throughout the year, there are additional program operations that, of course, make this job unique. And this varies between, institution, hospital programs, or maybe even if you're in a large team, and so the work is kind of distributed differently. But at the end of the day, the program is trying to accomplish all of these things here too, which is, of course, handling accounting, budgets, travel and expense. And I don't know if anybody else is utilizing the AMA GSEP modules, but I can tell you UT Southwestern is. Some of you may be like entering call schedules, making, on-call meal reports. Some departments do special events. You may be preparing to do a welcome party soon. You may have like lots of visiting professorships or other events that you as a coordinator are then helping them with. And then of course, annually I believe it's ACGME standard that you have at least one annual education retreat. It's, there's some that have it, some that don't, but I'm pretty sure like that's a requirement. And then of course, tracking faculty development, which to me is still a mystery. I'm still learning. So, and that's me after 7+ years. I'm still just collecting for web ads. And then after that, I just kind of wipe my hands of it. But at some point, I think the ACGME would really like for us to start tracking that throughout the year. I guess more to come on that. But additional things, maybe you're, promoting your residency or fellowship at a job fair, you're helping didactics, and many other things, which I know I can go into here. And then of course, training verifications galore. There's so many other things. And then on top of just, if you're somebody who's doing multiple programs, you may also be working with non-ACGME programs and having to report to other societies and those program requirements. So it's quite a lot of work. But if you pace yourself, you get a good plan, start, getting your allies and familiar with your resources. There's a community of coordinators who are willing to help and get you to where you need to be. And I think that the GME program coordinators community has grown quite a bit since I joined. And I think it's a good time to be a program coordinator. So, so again, if you're new, I know this seems like a lot. It may seem like a lot once we start doing the best practices. Just know that, Acure especially is there for you. And there are other coordinators out there willing to help. So. All right. So MedHub. So I know a lot of people may not use MedHub. Like my institution uses MedHub. Some of you may use New Innovations, but Denise and I did talk about this slide, and we agreed that regardless if it's MedHub or if it's New Innovations, at the end of the day, it's a system that you're using that helps the institution to kind of keep things within compliance, right? There's no way for them to physically make sure that each program is doing what it needs to do. And so MedHub and New Innovations helps facilitate that, helps keep all the historical records, and just, helps make sure that when they have their site visit with the ACGME, they can defer to this system that can help say, yes, like our programs are within compliance and this is where it's at. But just a couple of things to point out is, of course, duty hours. You may put your rotation schedules in there, maybe your goals and objectives. I can tell you at UT Southwestern that we do make sure that we log all of like, when do we have our PEC meetings? When do we have our CCC meetings? And we are even required to upload like minutes and attendance. We also put our conference schedule and attendance in there too. That way we can run reports for mid-year sit downs and things like that. I think Denise, you have another, do you go through New Innovations?
No, we use MedHub in our institution.
Okay. But if anybody else uses New Innovations and wanted to speak on this, like I'm pretty sure it's all the same. Maybe there's like, I think system-wide, like there's a little bit of a difference, but at the end of the day, I think they're all accomplishing the same thing, right? So, all right. Okay, so now to kind of get into a little bit of the weeds, we're just going to talk about kind of like the details of what happens throughout the right. So, you know, in July, which is the season that we're in now, excuse me, a lot of you guys have already completed orientation, right? Like you want to make sure your guys are good to go by July 1st. They should all be cleared by now. However, we all know how it is. There's usually some hiccups, you know, and that's normal. So I would say as a program coordinator, if you had some hiccups, I wouldn't beat myself up too much about it because it happens. So as long as, you know, you get it sorted out, then I think that's totally normal. A lot of them have done, like, they have to do like their institutional, like, and, you know, employee orientations, but I think there's also like departmental orientations, hospital orientations, clinical orientations, whatever your institution recommends or requires, I would defer to that. And then some departments may host a welcome party. I know that UT Southwestern, the urology department there, which is the department I was in before, they do a lovely welcome party for their people. It's great. And then I know on the peds neuro side that I'm in now, they're also going to do a welcome party. So I feel like it's not any department, any specialty loves to host these welcome parties for their new guys. Again, the resident survey opens, has probably, I think it's opening soon. Again, sorry, y'all. I know that I'm wrapping up one GME track and then another one's going to come out. So anyways, the good news is it's all online, right? So you can look that up. And then of course, WebAds is open, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I think someone just said I'm talking so fast. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was talking fast. Okay, so just the ACGME WebAds, I know that has just opened. I would recommend, if you haven't already done ACGME WebAds, if this is your first year to do it, then I would recommend starting with getting your scholarly activity. Sometimes that like takes, you know, a while to capture. Like I sent an email to all of my faculty. They may defer it to their admin. Their admin may have to, you know, capture that information and then bring it back to you. So I would say, I mean, everybody has a different process, but by all means, go ahead, you know, send the template out, request that they get it back to you, and yeah, and then just start there. And then of course, meet with your program directors at some point to kind of go over it. I mean, some program coordinators are very comfortable with it. They're very seasoned. They like to do the workup and then have their program director get involved afterwards to kind of review it. But be as careful as possible. And that's one of the tips that I put here at the bottom. So when you're completing it, accuracy is key. If there's an error or anything like that, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're getting a citation or an area for improvement because you didn't take a close look, right? Unfortunately, sometimes, you know, things come up anyways, but as long as you know you've done your best, you've tried to be as accurate as possible, you've, you know, had other people, you know, get involved, for instance, your program director, taking a look at it. And then, if I'm not mistaken, it's now a requirement for the GME office to review it as well. That being said, I would try to make sure that I did everything that to be as accurate as possible before it gets submitted to the GME office for DIO approval. You don't want to just defer to them to make sure that your web ads are correct. Yes, it's great that they're looking at it, but they may also have an oversight too. And at the end of the day, it's the coordinator and the program director's responsibility to make sure that it's accurate. So, and I think Denise, if I'm not mistaken, it says, yeah, do not submit to the ACGME until the GME office has approved. But I think it automatically routes to the GME office, or it automatically routes to your DIO. So
yeah, I believe that is correct. And so you won't be able to just submit it to the ACGME anymore like you could in the old days.
Right, yeah, like you could in the old days. So like now it just, you know, it goes to them, they approve it, and then you hit submit. Okay, so all right. So interview season. So Denise, I don't know if you wanted to like kind of, you know, pick up on this part because I know there's a section here about preference signaling, which I don't use preference signaling. And there's also some SAU. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to pivot to you for this one.
Sure, sounds great. So while it feels like our new academic year has just started because, well, our academic year just started and literally our residents have been here for a couple of weeks, it is already time to start thinking about interview season because ARIS will open for the students in early September, and then it will open to programs for review of the applications in late September. So that is, the ARIS timeline is specific for all of us, right? It's not just urology residents. The preference signaling that Natasha is speaking about that is specific to urology is different than the preference signaling that other students can do, maybe an NRMP or an ARIS. I am not 100% sure. So if you are in a different specialty, that is something you're going to want to check into more closely. For us in urology, the SAU/AUA manages that for us. Last year, our students had 5 preference signals. This year, they've decided to give them 30 preference signals. So that is something that programs will get, at least last year they did, in an email. So each program will find out via email which students preference signal them. But there is still, that's just a small tip of the iceberg for interview season. The SAU just recently put out our timeline for when we will be offering interview invites, when students will be accepting or declining, when our flush day is, and then when we can start interviewing. So it probably isn't too soon to start thinking about creating your checklist for the upcoming interview season, picking your interview dates, picking your interview teams, making a plan as to who is going to review your applications. Like I said, who is actually going to be doing the interviews. If you need residents involved in it, which most of us probably do have residents involved, you want to start planning for that as well. As you all know, probably in urology, we will be doing this virtually again this year. So you'll want to, as we go through the list here, schedule your faculty interviews, make sure that their ORs and clinics are blocked so that they are available for the time that you're interviewing. If you haven't already, I've already done this, share that SAU interview calendar with your PD and anybody else that's on your education team that needs to know any of this. You can utilize some kind of calendar system to manage your appointments with virtual links. If you have any kind of lunches, we actually do provide lunch for the people who are interviewing here. We no longer have to feed the applicants because they aren't coming here in person. But if you do any of that, just think about that and who's going to manage that and when you're going to schedule that and order all of that. If you have any kind of socials with your residents, you'll want to start planning those. You'll want to think about updating your program PowerPoint slides if you do kind of an overview, if your program director does that. Any kind of information that you give to the applicants you'll want to start working on as well. And you have a little bit of time. I mean, we're probably talking August, very early September to get moving on this. But it's just always good to kind of start thinking ahead, knowing that, you know, in the next couple of months, these are things you're going to focus on, because when recruitment is in full swing, it will take up a lot of your time. It's a pretty, you know, short period of time. And, you know, depending on how you schedule, how your program schedules.
Hi, this is Nancy calling from medical education. So I need to,
Sorry about that. You want to make sure that you have everything kind of set up in ARIS. So our institution tells us specifically what we can see when we start reviewing applications. So prior to sending out any invites, we can only view certain things. Your institution may be different, but that's just the way our institution sets it up. So it's just nice to be able to go in, make sure all of your various filters are set if you use any filters or any of your other functions in ARIS. And
One
then,
of the things,
Yep.
and I'm so sorry, Denise, one of the things I forgot to add in here, which is a very new thing for everybody, is how Thalamus and ARIS have, they've partnered. So I apologize to the new coordinators. I actually do not have any information on that right now. It's very new, so there's probably a lot of resources. And I know that I think ARIS or some other society was actually providing additional webinars. So if I can find that information, I'll be happy to send that to Denise. Because I am also learning that. That's new for all of us coordinators who are using ARIS. Denise, I'll look up at that information and I'll send it to you to send out.
sounds great. Did you have a question, Susan?
You know, I do. I'm the question girl. I was actually on that note. Since ARIS is sunsetting in 25, we're literally not going to use it for 25. We need to have that Thalamus in 24. But I had other questions on Denise, what you said about, you know, they went from 10 preference signals to 30. Did anybody, I can't find the breakdown, like the gold, silver. Do you know how many urology got? Like 10 gold, 10 silver of those 30? Does anybody know?
I don't think that's the way it's set up. I think each student can use up to 30. I don't think it's weighted in any way.
Oh, okay.
There was, if you can access the information the SAU sent about it, within that information, there was a link where they kind of explain why they decided to go from the small number to the bigger number, what other specialties had done that, which is why they had done that, because they had, I think it was ortho and ENT maybe that had good results or saw good results. I also believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, that the students are also going to have an option this year in ARIS to select, if they wish, which region of the country they are most interested in.
Yeah, the geo, that was part of their training. Yeah, the geographic.
Which could also lead, right? So we're going to get students in urology anyway who have preference signaled us. But then once we go into ARIS and look at their applications, we may see, oh, we're interested in this part of the country, which may be our region. So then that may also say, you know, we're going to weight this applicant even higher as far as their interest in our program goes.
Okay. So yeah, so once you've gotten, you've gone through the interview, prep, right? In the middle of preparing for your interview season, the urology in-service exam pops up in November. So I will, of course, again, defer to Denise and her expertise for the in-service exam, and then would be happy to speak on the interview day.
That's great. So yes, our in-service exam specific to urology always takes place on a Saturday in November. And there are things that you have to do like months in advance. And then of course, things you have to do right before the exam. And if you're like me and you want to spend your Saturday morning sitting there watching them all take an exam, well, we can do that as well. Having been in a different specialty, it was kind of similar to this. It was just at a different time period. So the AUA is going to send you an email and tell you to register. You'll want to register all of your residents, plus if you have an SUO fellowship, your SUO fellow, and any faculty who want to take the OCAT exam, which is the urologic oncology exam. They take it at the exact same time, but you also have to register them when you register your residents. I have already scheduled the room. So if you use the same computer space every year, make sure you schedule your room well in advance. You're going to have to select a faculty member or to proctor the exam. If you need to arrange resident coverage, call coverage during that time, you'll want to do that. Order food if you want to provide them some breakfast. And then about a week prior, you have to test the secure browser. That the AUA will send you detailed information for that. That's pretty easy to do, actually. And then you will either provide or bring with you, if you attend the day of the exam, the pencils and the paper and the instructions that the residents have. And then, of course, when you actually get the results about a month later, you definitely want to save those for your files, because those are going to be not only like super important to give to your residents and also provide to your program because it assesses their medical knowledge, but to keep on hand for things like your APE and just other kind of like when you want to make any kind of program improvement related to medical knowledge, you want to have that information.
Yes. So yeah. So like, and then if I'm not mistaken, I think most people actually do, or most urology programs do their interviews after the in-service exam.
Not necessarily. I mean, we will do ours whenever we can get that, handful of faculty available all on the same day.
Yep. Yeah, and one of the best practices I wanted to also remind is, I know when blocking faculty members' calendars, I would triple check that as well, because I know a lot of you, it may be sending an email to the faculty members' admins, and I have many times experienced where there was just an oversight. I understand everybody's busy and it happens. But I think as a coordinator, following up with the admins and triple checking and making sure, is this blocked, would help prevent any issues coming up the day of. Because I have had it happen at least twice, where the day of the interview or right before the interview, the faculty member realized, oh, my clinic was never blocked. And then that just throws a wrench in all the work that you put in. So definitely triple check and just, respectfully follow up and make sure that that's been done. But once you get to
me too.
Okay, yeah, so yes, it happens, and they're busy. So I just say, just follow up with them and just triple check, and then, of course, it's here the day of, you're ready to do it. I recommend just confirming your catering if you do have catering that you're bringing, making sure all your eggs are in a basket. Bring your printed material if you're providing any type of schedules to the faculty members. If you're printing out applications or anything like that, maybe just have that stuff prepared and in a little basket or something. I don't know. I use a rolling basket, and I like to put all my things in that, and then I just roll it in the next day. It's whatever's available to you, but if you have access to an extra laptop, I would bring an extra laptop. Make sure that every computer that they're going to be on has like a webcam or something like that. Adapters. I have had faculty members bring their Mac, and they needed an adapter for their Mac computer, and I just didn't have one. And so since I've transitioned into my into the new department, I've realized we don't have any spare adapters, and so I plan to order them before we interview, because it just happens. Chargers, I've had faculty members, hey, do you have an Apple charger or whatever? If you have something available that you can provide them, I would do that. And then just be prepared to provide some technical support. Now that we're on a virtual basis, it happens. You've put in a lot of work into this, you've sent out all the links. But just be prepared that sometimes these things just happen, and just be ready to just mitigate whatever you can. Just be present and available to liaison. You may have like an interviewee that's like texting you, hey, like I'm in the lobby or something like that. So just know that some things may come up, but at the end of the day, you're going to work it out, right? Any other comments on interview day before I move on? Because we're still in November. And I think we've got 20 minutes. All right.
Great.
Okay, so December to January. So again, I don't know if you remember, but I said December and January is going to be your busy month too, because you've already done your interviews, you've done your in-service exam, and so you've got to immediately pivot and start on your CCC meetings, making sure that you're doing your mid-year milestones, doing your sit downs with the PD, mid-year evaluations, and just you're probably going to need to run some reports. It's going to require a little bit of scheduling. So, and sometimes I think the milestones, the due date bleeds into January now, or has been for the past couple of years. So yeah, there's a little bit of time because of course the holiday season, everybody's taking time off, and sometimes it's difficult to get that scheduling done. I mean, this is a very hefty, like, task list that you have to do in December. So if you find that you can't do it in December, there may be room to do it in the beginning of January before the deadline. But I do recommend just trying to do your best to get it done in December. That way you have time to get them entered into WebAds, do all of your filing and whatever you need to do so you can start fresh by the end of January. In the January, February mark, the AUA match date is actually February 1st for this upcoming year. Denise, did you want to speak on the rank list, since urology is a little bit different and doesn't use the NRMP and instead uses the AUA match?
Yeah, just briefly, and most of you have probably done this so many times. Our rank list deadline is going to be different than NRMP's, obviously. If I remember correctly, it's like maybe the second week in January. Similar to the NRMP, because this occurred with the NRMP, I think a number of years ago while I was still using NRMP. No longer can a coordinator enter the list and certify it. So the same with the AUA match, the program director now has to certify it. You can enter it, but they have to certify it. So that's really all I have to say about that. Otherwise, the process is pretty similar. You enter the list and submit, and they hit certify, and then you sit around and wait.
Yeah. And then some institutions, I know UT Southwestern, this fun little match ceremony in the gymnasium, and they do like a cute little countdown, and then everybody opens their envelopes. And when I was in PM&R, I used to actually work with the students there too. And so it was wonderful because I got to go join and watch all of them with their family open their envelopes. Oh, it was so touching. So anyway, so if you have a relationship with a coordinator or whatever, it may be fun for you to watch at least once, All right. So now you've kind of got your kind of like things are kind of chilling out a little bit. But it's March, it's April. And so by now you're probably receiving some onboarding emails from like the other institutions that are like, hey, because again, your institution, it's not just urology, right? So you may be getting emails about, hey, like rosters are coming up or whatever. Just know that this around when fellow and resident onboarding may start, okay? And you also want to start working on your schedules. If you haven't started on preparing your schedules, I would definitely start working on it around this time, and just keep in mind that graduation is coming. It's March, it's April, it's going to be here before you know it. So in May, I think May is just the best time. If you don't start by the end of April, then for sure by May, you should start prepping for your graduation. That's one thing that I put for my helpful tip down here. Just do not underestimate the amount of time that you have to prepare for graduation. Just go ahead and start chiseling it away. If you're ordering, gifts, sometimes the gifts take time. Approval for the funding, you may have to get special approval. You never know. Making sure if you haven't already reserved your venue, which I think a lot of people try to actually reserve the venue like well in advance, like as much in advance as possible. I can tell you that me personally, I have already reserved the space for next year's graduation. So I would say reserve that as soon as possible. Otherwise, around this time is when you want to start thinking about invitations. Who are you going to invite? maybe reconciling and gathering all of the little things that you're going to need, right? Like who's getting awards, what awards are we doing, what paperwork are we going to need? You know, sometimes you do a little program that you provide. And then of course your graduation certificates. I can tell you UT Southwestern uses the UT printing services. And so we have to make sure we follow that template and get that stuff submitted soon. Because of course your graduation certificates are going to need everybody's signature. So get them printed early, circulate for signatures, and that way you have them ready, right? Oops, sorry, my calendar appointment popped up. Okay, and then right around this time is when you also want to start scheduling your PEC APE meeting. You want to make sure that your graduates have an opportunity to speak on the program and share like their feedback on the program and just, you know, pros, cons, room for growth and things like that. Additionally, you want to schedule your CCC meeting and your milestones. Like I said in the beginning, like May, June, and July are your busiest months. You've got a lot going on, lots of demands. You may be pulled in different directions. Getting this stuff scheduled in advance is very helpful. It just takes kind of the pressure off because it's scheduled and you don't have to worry about coordinating it, you know, at the last minute, okay? Which happens, and that's okay. So make sure you've scheduled the PEC, the CCC, and then also your sit downs, because you got to have your sit downs and that final evaluation before your graduates leave, okay? And then again, going back to GME track down here at the bottom, that opens as well. So yay us. Just some best practices for like May and June. You know, of course, just for the PEC, APE, go ahead and prep your meeting agenda. Make sure that you're available to take your meeting minutes and just follow the ACGME requirements, you know, for the things that you guys are discussing. Make sure, I can say, I know UT Southwestern uses, they've developed a form that helps guide, you know, programs in their PEC, APE meetings. It's been a useful tool. So I'm like, I don't know if your institution provides something like that, but just it helps make sure that when you're having healthy discussions that are actually targeting ACGME requirements, right? Because that's the whole point of the AP, right? And then let's see, your annual program evaluation. So I know like you may need to summarize your past action plan, creating a new action plan, creating your SWOT, completing any other requirements. You know, I think every institution may handle it a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, I think we're all accomplishing that same goal. And then let's see, the checkout process. I feel like that one always sneaks up on me because, you know, like for urology, I know urology they have to log their case logs into the ACGME case log system. So of course, make sure that they are actually getting those logged before they leave. And then make sure you collect their badges, pagers, all the things. I think each institution may actually have like a checkout list or something like that. So I would defer to your institution for their requirements. And then yes, get their forwarding address. One of the things I didn't put in here was to also collect the graduate scholarly activity, because they're going to be gone and the ACGME is going to open in July and ask for their scholarly activity. So if I were you, I would go ahead and just give them the template and just ask them to please fill this out before you leave. That way you have it, okay? And then Denise, did you want to speak on the summative evaluations?
So every program, this is an ACGME requirement. Every program is required to have a final, it is now called the final summative evaluation for your graduates, but also a summative evaluation for all of your residents each year. So that's a little bit different. That's been in effect for maybe a couple of years now. So that final summative eval has to basically have a little verbiage about their performance over the last 6 months, and then it has to contain the required ACGME language about them being competent to practice independently. It's a little bit different than that now, and I would say that everybody should go to their ACGME requirements and make sure you're using the exact verbiage that is there. You should also then have a summative evaluation for each of your residents that basically says that your resident was promoted to the next PG level. So I just do when the program director meets with them at the end of the year, I just have a form that he kind of fills out where they talk about their strengths and weaknesses and their performance over that period. And then at the very bottom, I just make a note that the CCC promoted them to the next level. And then for us here in our institution, we have to make sure that we're uploading all of those summative evaluations to MedHub for each of our residents.
Yeah, and we utilize MedHub as well to kind of help with the evaluation process. But I can say that even in me being in another specialty, we do the exact thing, creating a letter that makes sure that it says they are eligible to practice, beyond residency. So it's June, right? So we made it. So just some final things that you are wrapping up. You're doing your graduation ceremony. Did you make sure that you entered your milestones? Are you visiting people? Make sure you schedule that summative evaluation that we were talking about. Don't forget to promote and graduate your trainees in ACGME web ads. You should get a communication about that. Otherwise, you probably will be able to see it in web ads on your own. But I think they sent an email letting you know, like, it's ready. You can come in and now promote your people and add your new people. And then, is your onboarding complete? You're probably working with multiple institutions, making sure that your people are cleared. It's the final hour. You guys just probably came out of this and know exactly what I'm talking about. So just making sure you guys are clear. They've got their training. I put Epic in training in here. That's the hospital system that they use for patient care, but every system may be different, or every institution may be different. And then of course, that's right, we totally did it. We made it to the end of the year and we get to do it all again. So yeah, that's the academic year. That's how it rolls. Any questions real quick before I just kind of dig into some final resources? Anything? No question? Just kidding. All right, so just some final resources here. So these are live links. When we send you guys the PowerPoint, you'll be able to actually click on these. I know that we gave you the website for the timelines, but this link right here will just automatically prompt you to the Word document. There's also a coordinator advisory. It's pretty new, and they Denise and the Acure group actually had someone come and speak, and it was a really lovely lecture. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's on the YouTube video or YouTube channel. If you guys are interested in that, she got to talk a little bit about the group and what they do, and there's opportunity to eventually join that group. It is I think a 2-year cycle. Once you're appointed for a couple of years, and then they accept applications. But if you're somebody who's on this call and you've been around for a while and you want to get involved in a high level, that's an opportunity for you too. As far as this basics of accreditation for new program coordinators, this came out a while back, and I did test the link, and unfortunately there's no upcoming courses, but I'm hoping that you reinstitute this. When you click the link, it just says check for future dates. I hope they bring this back, because I think this was a great resource for other people. If there's some video recording that I can dig up or find, then I'll be happy to share that too.
Natasha, I asked about that too, because I wanted as a newbie to take that course.
I know,
And
right?
I emailed them and they said, oh, we'll be updating it as soon as we can.
Yeah, I'm going to be taking my CTAGME mock next year, and I wanted to join it just to kind of refresh and I was really sad that they don't have any future dates, but I still put the link in case if it was something that you guys wanted to watch out for, then you're welcome to. That's the link. This is public information. UT Southwestern, of course, I've got to put the plug on UT Southwestern because I'm Team UT. But this is public information. So if you're somebody who, I'm not gonna lie, I have checked other institutional policies just to kind of cross-reference and see what are other people doing, and just check it out. I've done that. So if you're new, I don't see any resources on my websites. Just know that this is public information and you have access to this if you wanted to come and check out our institution's policies. Something else that's kind of cool, UT the link, and this is just external GME resources. This is not like, it's not UT Southwestern. It's not related to us at all. But at the bottom of this website, it at least has external links to very universal websites. So, you know, if that's something that you wanted to check out, that's a resource for you as well. If you're new to being a program coordinator, a couple of things on this slide is there's actually a residency coordinator handbook. Some institutions may pay for it and some may not. I'm not gonna lie, I think this book is a little pricey, but I bought it, you know, and thankfully my department paid for it. So I'm not saying I bought it, you know, but my department paid for it. And it might be a good resource if you're somebody who's new. And then something else down here, I had to refresh the link on it, but there's actually a coordinator journal club, sorry, articles that are geared towards coordinators. I think there's a group here at UT that's really working hard to kind of do a journal club for program coordinators, which I really like that idea. I think they've done at least one journal club, but just wanted to point that out, that there may be some good journal articles that, you know, if you're interested, you're welcome to dig into that. If you are a urology coordinator and you have not joined Acure, here it is. You are welcome to join Acure. You can email Denise or any other, you know, committee member. I know Terry and Susan are on this call. We do have a Facebook group. You guys are, these are very new. So if you join the group Twitter, just know very early stages of getting these things going, but I think it would promote just some great conversation between urology coordinators. So please feel free to join either of those. And then let's see, final words of wisdom. I have been doing this for 7+ years. Denise has been doing this for quite a while as well. And just being a program coordinator, I can tell you the demands. It can be a demanding role. And so you want to be mindful of burnout. And so I would just recommend just pacing yourself, you know, take care of your wellness and well-being, do your best to manage a healthy work-life balance. I've had days where I have, you know, burned the candle at both ends and said, all I can do is all I can do. And it's time for me to log off and to be with my family. So just being mindful of that and taking care of yourself. If it makes you feel better, create a checklist at the end of the day that just says, okay, these are the things I'll take care of tomorrow, and then set it aside and let it wait for tomorrow. Maybe develop some checklists, you know, if you've never done this before and you're kind of learning as you go. Once you do an event, maybe just reflect back on the event that you just did and create a checklist. And then follow up, you know, if somebody hasn't got back to you about something or whatever, there's, you know, nothing wrong with following up and making sure that they get you the answer or the information that you need. So any final words of wisdom from you, Denise, before I close it out?
No, that's great. And like you said, Natasha, you know, you need to make time for yourself and your family. You need to put all of that first. These jobs are important. Our residents need us. Our departments need us. But at the end of the day, you don't have to kill yourself for this, right? So give what you can during the time that you're here at work. And then remember that your life is your life, and go on and, you know, carry on and go about your life. Also, one thing I want to kind of just circle back to, Natasha, that I thought was really a great thing that you said early in the talk is that while a lot of these, almost all of these things, we all manage in some way, shape, or form, right? This is all specific to GME. And yet we're all in different departments, and we're all in different institutions, and we're all in different specialties. And so there's all these little things that could become my responsibility that aren't necessarily somebody else's responsibility. So just remember that as well, that you not only, like when you're beating yourself up that you feel like maybe I can't get this all done, not only do you have all of the GME stuff that is specifically the same for all of us, you probably have other things too, right? That you have to manage. And you're probably doing an awesome job trying to manage all of that stuff. So just remember that while all of this stuff, you know, having your APE and making sure you're updating your web ads and all of that is something we all have to do. There are probably a lot of other things you're doing as well. And so just, you know, step back, give yourself a break and know that you're doing the best that you can do, given that there is always so much to do. But that's also what makes this great and fun, right? We work with awesome people. We have this group of colleagues that gets together now virtually a lot. So, and we get to do something different probably most every day, probably most every hour in a lot of cases, right? So just kind of remind yourself that this is a fun job. And while it is difficult at times, it's really, truly fun.
Yes, yes. So with that, I just want to, if you're a new coordinator, I just want to welcome you to the GME community. And again, thank you guys for your time and joining this presentation. I hope you got a lot out of it. I definitely, if you're a urology coordinator, sign up to receive information about their continued education. There's a lot of like other little presentations that they give. But yeah, just welcome. Thank you guys so much for your time and really, really appreciate it and welcome. And if anybody was lingering and had a lingering question, you're welcome to. So
That was awesome.
thank you guys so much.
I have a question for some of you guys that's maybe not the specific, sorry, I'm losing my words. How do you guys and your PDs feeling about the AAMC guidelines saying we are going to let you choose what you want to do for interviews, virtual or hybrid or in person? And then SAU saying we were going to follow that recommendation, but then SAU came out and said, sorry, no, everybody's doing virtual. What's the feeling out there?
I think we all pretty much knew that it was going to be virtual. So we kind of accepted it, and this is not a surprise.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Terry. I think we did too. Yeah.
Do they do that a lot though, when they say they're going to do one thing and then they'll just flip it on its ear and say, sorry, yeah, we told you we were going to follow that, but we don't follow it?
It happens.
Okay. I was just kind of curious.
I will lay odds that there will be a different number of preference signals next year. Like, I just feel like we are going to go from 5 to 30 to 15 to 25, you know, it doesn't seem like there is consistency from year to year.
How about we're paying SAU dues, right, for the match. And now that Eris is like sunsetting, is that, I guess I'm kind of confused on the SAU and what we're paying them for if we're going to be using Thalamus and not Eris in 25 when it sunsets. My newbie ignorance again, sorry.
Well, I'm not a newbie, and I had absolutely no idea anything was sunsetting. So now I'm freaking out. What are we?
Yeah, the Eris scheduling. Yeah.
Well,
Yes, that's
So-
true. That is true.
so
It
can you
Susan's
guys
right.
can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Is it MJ?
So we're still, yeah, hey, we're
Hey.
still gonna use Eris. We're just not using the Eris scheduler.
Scheduler.
So when we went over the Thalamus like tutorial that they did a couple days ago,
Mhm.
we asked them from our GME perspective, are they able to pull all the applicants over, or do we have to? So we as the administrators have to select who we want to move over into Thalamus. It doesn't automatically sync all the applicants. So Eris is never going away. Instead of using the Eris scheduler, we're just using a Thalamus scheduler.
And MJ, now, are we also
know,
paying
for
for the
this year.
Thalamus and cerebellum though? Don't we have to pay for it?
So no, you only have to pay for Thalamus if you want to use it beyond what they're giving us via Eris.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
they're
like the
giving us-
cerebellum you would have to pay for, and I think there's another program like that.
What they're giving us to schedule with is included. If we want to use anything else, we'll have to pay.
And we're not required to use the thalamus scheduler, correct? Or the
Correct.
scheduler. Okay.
Correct.
This year it's optional.
Exactly.
But my
Exactly.
institution wants us to use it this year, so we will have to use it.
So if you don't use thalamus scheduler or Eris scheduler, do you just do it all internally? Are we allowed to do that?
That's what I do. I
Yes.
just use the
I
spreadsheet.
believe you do have the option of doing your own thing, so
Yep.
to speak.
Yes,
Yep.
you do.
But like I said, my institution wants us to do this year, so I personally don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
But that's based on institution, not, on SAU or AUA or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Learn one brand new and then they're switching it over. You're killing me.
I know.
Killing me,
I
Smalls.
know. I know. That's why I'm like, there's always something new and fresh happening. So I'm like, it keeps me on my toes. I think that's why I've stuck around for a while. Like, it's not a boring job, I'll tell you that. No boring about it. But yeah. All right. Well, I guess if there's no other questions, we can just all hop and get back to our busy work lives. And then I hope you all can go home to your families and have a lovely dinner and watch your favorite Netflix show. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
guys.
Thank
Yes,
you, Natasha. Thanks,
Today
Simone.
was amazing. Thank
I'm
you.
so glad. Bye.
Will these slides be posted?
Yeah,
Yes.
and I believe Stephanie will post this talk on YouTube, but I'll make sure that I send out the slides as well.
Great,
Yes,
thank
I'm
you.
getting them together right and I'll send them to you.
Thank you.
Miss
All right.
Denise, did you want to stop your recording?
I will send it.